Hello, everybody. Mandolin here with you. It's been a day or two, hasn't it? It's nice to be back with you. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me. I really do appreciate you stopping in. If you're a new subscriber, thank you so much. I want to welcome you aboard. If you have not yet subscribed, I encourage you to go down below, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll know when I upload a new video. Share this with your friends. Let's get talking. Let's start figuring out what's going on, how we can help each other, how we can help ourselves, and just understanding generally what it is that we're living through. Of course, give me a thumbs up. A like always encourages. Leave a comment. I would love to know your perception, your experience, and perhaps you've come across some information that I am not yet aware of. With that being said, again, thank you for subscribing. All of you subscribers, you're the best of the best of the best. You keep me going. I do cover a vast amount of topics, and I seem to be getting a lot of messages on probably the most prevalent topics. So with all that being said, again, thank you everybody for joining me. I have been speaking a whole lot about immunity and herd immunity. There is new information. Actually, it's not brand new because I'm behind on my reading and my research. But it's in connection to speaking about immunity and to activating these T cells. One of the new videos that I saw was, there's a YouTube channel called Unheard, and they have talks, and they've opened up a conversation here. The mathematician, computer modeling, I didn't get his exact title. His name is Carl Friston, and they're talking about 80% of the population being or not being susceptible to this current virus. And they're talking about the computer models that they're using and things that they're finding and data that would make them be able to come up with a better explanation or information, and also what things they cannot tell. So everything doesn't just line up to one side or another. These people are being open-minded, and they're putting the truth out there so that other people can help them solve these riddles. And it was very interesting, the things that they talked about. As always, all of the links will be in the description. I encourage you to go and check these things out. See how you perceive them. And sometimes they might lead you to even more information or different information. And I encourage you, when that happens, to share that as well, because this is about learning from each other. Another interesting thing was the Swedes have come out with some information, and specifically this was also on Unheard. Again, I was catching up. Dr. Sue Alleman, I'm not sure if I'm saying her name correctly, from Stockholm, Sweden, the Karolinska Medical Center, I think they talked about. And they actually were looking for antibodies. Here's the interesting thing that I found out through a lot of these talks. And Run DMC, the guy's great, but it called into question the test accuracy for the antibodies and everything, and that referred to the Cochrane review, which is a paper that people were waiting for it to get released. So if you look at all of this information, roughly, and again, I'm encouraging you to go read this medical research. So the immunity due to antibodies seems to be about 15%, but the T cell immunity seems to be about 30%. So antibodies attack the virus. T cells kill an infected cell. And it's like the true natural vaccine. Looking through all of this information, Germany, from what they said, seemed to be the largest community that seemed to have some kind of immunity or something else going on. That was very interesting to me. I heard somewhere about a connection between the Black Plague of the Middle Ages and this virus. And so I did a little bit of research on that. The plague is called Yersinia pestis. Interestingly enough, it originated in the Gobi Desert in China. It lay there dormant for hundreds of years. And then in the 1300s, it came back. So it's typically transmitted by fleas, vermin, rats, things like that. There are three different basic categories of the plague as I understood it, the Black Plague. One is the bubonic, which has to do with the lymph nodes. And then there's the septicemic, which is like sepsis, the circulatory system all throughout the body. And then there's pneumonic. Here's the symptoms: fever, headaches, weakness, rapidly developing pneumonia with shortness of breath and cough, sometimes bloody, watery mucus. And this is the only one out of the three that can be transmitted by inhaling infected droplets. Now, if the other two don't go untreated, then this can develop. But the original of the other two, the bubonic or the septicemic, I hope I'm saying that right, they're transmitted by, flea bites, rodents, things like that. And then this one can be transmitted human to human. If it's untreated, it may cause respiratory shock or failure. Now, what I found interesting is when you look at it, there was a genetic marker that they found, because, they're saying, well, why is this so? Why are some people seem to have a resistance to it? From what I understand that they correlated, it was that descendants of people that had survived the Black Plague, they carried a marker in their DNA. And that marker is called the TLR2, and it's an immune-related cluster. When they expose this, and mind you, I'm talking about the Black Plague studies, but it's interesting to me because I saw it recommended that this could possibly be why some people have a resistance to the current disease or virus that we're dealing with. So they said that when they exposed this marker, okay, in the DNA samples against Yersinia pestis or Yersinia pseudotuberculosis, which is an ancestor of the plague, it caused a heightened immune response against it. And the theory, if I understood correctly, and I'm pretty sure I did, is that this genetic marker exists, and for whatever reason, it may or may not come to a point where it needs to be activated within your body, within your DNA. Some of us have reached that point. Why are some races, ethnicities, geographical locations at more of a risk? Because they did not experience the plague, if you will, in their area. There is still some of the bubonic plague on the planet, and it just kind of makes me wonder, though, because it almost sounds like, and this is, to me, this is totally opinion, so nobody go out there and say that I said this or that or the other. I'm saying this is what rolls over in my mind. Could it be some kind of relative to that mutated to try and go from, instead of going from 0 to 60 in 5 minutes, it goes from 0 to 60 instantaneously? As far as you contract it, and it doesn't go through the first 2 stages, it just goes straight to the last because it was spread by humans. Is this some kind of mutation of that original plague that's figured out how to attack us? And the reason, if you have that genetic marker, it could actually increase your chances of immunity. I would love to hear some opinions on this, and not snarky remarks. I mean, it makes total sense in my mind. Another thing about T cells being the key. T cells have to be activated against this. Okay? And so if a T cell is activated, I've been saying from day one that I'm immune to this. This virus is not allowed within my energy, within my body. It's just not allowed. I've put on my boundaries. Done. When I spoke that, we all know that I have heightened consciousness and awareness, and that are living a more aligned experience. We all know that we can communicate with our body, and we can choose to activate certain things or not. Some of us fast, some of us, we all have different things, but the key is to be in communication with your physical vessel. So when you state that, I feel like what I did was I activated that marker in my DNA. I do have ancestry from that part of the world, as well as other parts. And I think that it's important for us to have these conversations. The links that I'm going to share with you, it's intriguing. Please go follow it. Yes, if the study is not peer reviewed, that's great, because they haven't had a chance to bury it so you don't see it. And there's more and more speaking up. This whole thing about the kids not being able to go back to school, those numbers, let me see if I can find it. February through May, and this was on Live Science, February through May, 52,000 reported deaths. 16 were under 18 years old. And under 9 incidents is 52 in 100,000. Kids just are not a threat on this. I mean, we need to inform ourselves. We don't need to run around freaking out. If people are immune, then so what? But can we trust the government tests? Because now the Run DMC was explaining why these tests are not reliable. Number one, you have the test is only accurate within 8 weeks of the symptom onset. So you could get a negative, and it's negative for that moment. And then there's a thing, after a certain amount of time, antibodies, they kind of they lessen. Okay, you sometimes become below the detectable range. So you wouldn't think the person had the antibodies, but they did. But the test to do the T cells is very expensive. So there's a lot that we need to look at on this still. And don't just take somebody's word for it because they say so. They didn't know that this was going to hit the elderly like it did. But Dr. Sue was on saying that what they're finding is that most of them in the elderly homes, most of them are probably what we would have considered, terminal. You've heard that word where they've got, and then COVID, of course, it wasn't pleasant and we didn't wish it on anybody, but that hurried it along. It hurried the process. It was not the sole and initial culprit in this death. So there's a lot of things, if you look through this and, listen, even if you have to skim through them, they explain why the information that we have is not necessarily telling the story that you think. You got to look behind things. You've got to see, as in the intro, see the face in the smoke behind the scenes. It's watching you to see what you're going to do and to see what they can make you do. We've talked about why they would be distracting us, and it's just the energies, the ones that want to disrupt stuff. So the whole point of this was to give you guys a bunch of resources. I've really been torn down lately. I'm really taking a break from Facebook because it's an ugly, ugly place for the most part. And I wanted to share this with you and share some of the resources that I've come up with here lately, trying to catch up on my reading and research. Take back your energy. Take back your power. You don't have to run and be terrified. Educate yourself. Go to these links. These are links that don't pop up when you Google stuff. They're buried. You've got to really look for these sometimes. Share anything with me that you think might be helpful or beneficial. I'm looking for a dialogue, not a monologue, because when we each talk, we learn each other's experience. We learn each other's opinions, and we learn why. And that makes it easier to respect. So much love to everybody. I'm going to get this posted as quickly as possible. The move goes on. Little hitch in the plan, but I'm working through it. Love you much, and I will see you on the next video. Bye, y'all.